We've countless criminals in this country. So what separates one from the other?
They decided to carry out a raid.
Well, some are sharp.
Shut up!
Some are skilled.
You're holding up the shop, go!
What?
And some are stupid.
Oh, I'm a dead man, I'm a fucking dead man. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot.
Over the course of this programme, we'll see stories where some of Ireland's not-so-finest have hindered their own happy ending.
There ring a bell?
Josh, get your hands on me, will you? What you gonna win?
Whether it's a thrill or trophy they're after.
Everybody down!
This troublesome crowd will only win one award.
Hurry up, something in it!
Ireland's dumbest criminal. The first to represent as best he can, Mr. Ian Howe.
Some criminals, of course, will go to any lengths to avoid earning that title, Ireland's dumbest criminal. And one of them is a man called Ian Howe.
24-year-old guy from Ballyfermot. How did he tie his shoelaces in the morning is what I want to know.
Ian Howe and two accomplices robbed bookies on Sundrive Road in Crumlin. They, assumed that there'd be a lot of cash at the premises because it was Cheltenham week.
It's not a bad plan. It's also St. Patrick's weekend. So there's going to be a lot of money in the safe. It was actually £6,000 there at the time. He hires himself two accomplices. He's got a getaway van. He's got the sledgehammers to take the safe out. It's all good.
Like the rest of us go to work and work in a normal office. This is their job. You do what you need to do to bring home the bacon, and if it means robbing a bookies, you rob the bookies. So he heads into the bookies.
Need the sledge, need the sledge! Get scared, grab the sledge, grab the fucking sledge!
Eventually they located the safe at the back of the store, and using sledgehammers they managed to dislodge it.
So they're bashing away at the safe, take it out of the wall, loading it into the van. It's all good so far, until the Gardaí turn up, of course, and spoil the party. Now, his two accomplices, they know the game's up, so they hand themselves over, but Ian's not quite ready to give up yet, and he runs to the best hiding place he can think of.
All right, you're not. Don't move. You're on your wrist. Don't move.
He hides inside the bookies. I mean, come on, you don't do that. I mean, we've all played hide and seek growing up. We've all hidden mysterious, unusual places, but you don't hide in the place you know there's going to be crawling with guards. And then behind an advertising hoarding.
He probably was just acting in panic, and for some reason he thought maybe he could hide and not ever be discovered.
You'd be crouched down and you'd be trying to just sort of, I'm not here, like, or when you're a kid and you go like this and then you look like that. You know, you're going to get caught. It's going to happen.
They find him, obviously. It doesn't take them too long with their detective skills.
You might as well come out. We know you're here.
The best part is what he forgets is anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. He tells the Gardaí that he was hiding there because he didn't want to be known as Ireland's dumbest criminal.
It caused some amusement in court, and I think the judge even made some comment that even though he'd been trying not to be seen as Ireland's dumbest criminal, that's exactly what he was doing by hiding in the store when Gardaí were well aware there was 3 men carrying out the robbery.
Criminals absolutely hate the idea of being deemed as stupid or dimwits, or, I mean, it's only short of being branded a rat, being called stupid, because they always tend to think that they're very, very clever.
He was wary of his stupidity, and he must be so embarrassed now. He must be so upset.
He ended up with 15 months for his trouble. But his big mistake was saying he didn't want to be known as Ireland's dumbest criminal. I mean, we've got the Viper and the Monk, and now forever, for the rest of his criminal career, he's going to be known as Ireland's dumbest criminal.
He's got the stamp. He's got the stamp on his arm. He's got the tattoo. The lads in Mountjoy are slagging him, going, "You're pretty dumb."
Anytime you Google Ireland's dumbest criminal, Ian Howe's name is going to pop up.
Hide and seek, this fella was playing in there.
Let's hope Howe has learnt his lesson. Next up is to the southern states, where a Corkman hits the highway in true rebel fashion.
In February 2007, an armed man in Cork decided to rob a security van.
Douglas, lovely suburb of Cork, and you know, people are going around their daily shopping, and just like across Ireland, hundreds of millions every day is delivered to the ATMs, and this was just another delivery, cash in transit. The money was being delivered as usual, and you know, this young man comes along.
He had clearly done quite a bit of preparation for this. He knew exactly what time the security van was going to be arriving at in Douglas. He was armed with a handgun, I believe. He arrived on the scene and managed to successfully steal, I think it was 40 grand in cash.
40,000 euro in cash. Who wouldn't want 40,000 in cash? Let's be honest about it. There's a recession on. I've been tempted. I've seen these lads around. I want to grab the cash and run away. But I know more than likely I'll be caught. And there's something else I know, and I thought most people knew this. These special containers carrying money, not only do they have alarms, not only do they have these satellite, sat-nav complicated little gadgets inside where they can be tracked, these trackers everywhere, they also have smoke. They've got bright smoke and dye, and they can ruin the money.
Most safes actually nowadays are fitted with a device that if they're robbed, they will set off a load of this sort of smoke that comes out of it, and as far as I know, the contents of the safe are destroyed as part of that.
So this guy, you know, he has a getaway vehicle, not the usual getaway car, which is normally a stolen sports car or stolen fast car.
Criminals mainly use cars that are faster than most of the Garda cars. The Guards have had to keep upgrading and upgrading because some of the cars that the criminals are using are just like, they cannot keep up with them.
We've often read about the highly organised raids that are done on cash in transit vans. Very, very lucrative for those who have done them in the past. And normally it involves a series of getaway vehicles which are found burned out or ditched, and the criminals are gone far away before the guards know what's going on.
They'd use getaway drivers that are trained in driving through traffic at speed. That would be, I suppose, seen as a key to the success in these robberies.
He has a bicycle. To be honest with you, I don't think it's that dumb. Why not escape on a bicycle? It's a great way of escaping because you can go through one-way streets and you can catch the guards off guard. So why not? It's a great way of escaping.
Gardaí were quite surprised at that, you know, considering this is a substantial robbery. But then others pointed out that it was actually rush hour at this time in Cork, so he probably would have been better off on the bike. So unbeknownst to him, he was, I'm sure, delighted that this had been a success. He put the bag on his back and he cycled off out of Douglas in the direction of the city centre.
And he took off across a motorway, like a major motorway, where traffic, you know, there was people everywhere to see him.
So he was cycling along, I believe, for about half a mile, and he was going over a bridge, and he was wondering where all the motorists were stopping and staring at him.
He's cycling along, he's getting away, and then bang, the smoke starts pouring out. Drivers and passers-by see all this, and they're like pointing at him, and he doesn't know what to do, so he just keeps cycling.
So motorists can see this guy, smoke flowing behind him as he cycles down the motorway. He's not going to be hard to follow. They probably thought it was some sort of performance act or something.
So what motorists saw was this man pedalling furiously up the road with a rucksack on his back and smoke pouring out of it, like a little red arrow flying up the road on his bicycle doing some sort of a display.
So eventually, you know, it got really out of hand. So what does he do? He dumps the bicycle, just get rid of the bicycle, and then you're on foot and you just leave it beside the GA club as you do in Cork, and you just run off with your 40,000 dyed money with lots of fumes coming out of it and powder and colour, and you just disappear and you hope for the best. You lie low, you're covered in dye, and you're still a free man.
The chances of him being able to ever use that money, because it would have been dyed red, would be very small. He would have had to do a substantial clean-up operation to try and salvage some of the notes, and it is possible, Gardaí believe, that some of the money wouldn't have been dyed.
I don't know what happened to the money, but it's dyed, it's covered in colour. Maybe he was able to like put it through the washing machine or get some Ariel Ultra or scrub it clean or do something. But, you know, is he really that dumb because he wasn't caught? He's got 40,000 euro in dyed money, but he's still a free man.
Even though, you know, he's been branded one of Ireland's dumbest criminals, he was never apprehended, so in some ways he did get the last laugh.
I don't understand why this guy wasn't caught. Come on, people. Cork, you're hiding this guy. Where is this dyed money? Where is it?
Questions have to be asked. This guy, he dumped his bicycle, he got away, and he's never been heard from or seen since. Gardaí have put out loads of appeals, but he seems to have gotten away with his 40 grand.
After the break, we see how criminals could have escaped a conviction if they'd gone back to basics and destroyed the evidence.
Why he decided to take a photograph of himself is just beyond me.
If you're going to steal a mobile phone, you don't just go click.
Some might say the older the wiser, but will that be the case for our next set of criminals? Only time will tell.
Get out! Get out!
Palmerstown in West Dublin in November 2010, 3 young men, I believe they were all aged 20, they decided they were going to try and hold up a local garage in the area.
The great Hansel and Gretel robbery of Palmerstown. As the story goes, these 3 boys in their 20s were looking to rob a load of lolly, but actually wanted a load of lollies instead. So they burst in, they clean out the register.
They didn't even get a particularly large amount of money, but on their way out of the store they grabbed handfuls of sweets.
Come on, hurry up! Hurry up! Come on, Eddie!
The 3 lads, they just couldn't resist the lure of all the brightly coloured wrappers and sweets and candies. So they decided to take a few armfuls of that, and why not, the ultimate opportunists.
They obviously felt this was taking a bit of energy out of them. They could do with a little something to revive them.
So they just grabbed everything, just as much as you can carry, and then they legged it.
Report a robbery.
On a more serious note, this was an actual raid on a premises. The shop assistant was traumatised by it. These 3 guys came in with balaclavas, and the assistant locked herself in a room at the back of the store while they robbed it. So people working in shops that are robbed are very traumatised by events like that, and it can scar them for the rest of their days.
The shopkeepers must be terrified of these guys, because sometimes they've got real guns, sometimes imitation guns, not that I could tell the difference, nor could the shopkeeper. So you must need a lot of counselling afterwards. And there is that serious side to this too. These are dumb criminals, but they scared the living daylights out of people.
How are you doing?
How are you? I'm okay now. I was standing here and 3 young guys came in, they ran in, they had balaclavas on, and I just ran out the back straight away.
What exactly happened to you?
Well, I was standing here and I think they just grabbed some sweets and stuff on their way out. I'm not really sure.
And do you know what direction they headed? Was it towards the village, or did they have any indication of where they were going?
I think they went down towards the village.
Are you personally okay?
Yeah, I'm okay now, yeah. I'm just a bit shook up, but
okay.
I'm okay, yeah.
Listen, we'll be in touch and I'll be making inquiries. We'll be back shortly.
Okay, Grant, thank you.
As they ran off, they didn't have a getaway vehicle. They essentially left a trail of confectionery all the way from the garage into Palmerstown village.
So when the guards arrived to the station, they'd actually gone. They had gone, so they would have had to go through a series of looking through CCTV and seeing what witnesses were available. But instead they noticed a sweet trail.
Can only be described as the easiest crime in the world to solve. They simply followed the trail of sweets that the boys didn't realise they were dropping all the way into Palmerstown village, and then stumbled across the 3, stuffing their faces.
Right, get out the goods.
Doesn't much. I'll get too excited now.
It was easy for the guards to catch up with them, for crying out loud. They didn't need to get out the sniffer dogs. All they had to do was wander around Palmerstown, look at the sweetie wrappers on the ground, follow those sweetie wrappers, follow the sweets.
Well, I mean, the guys are in their 20s, so I mean, they really shouldn't. They should have advanced beyond robbing sweets at this stage. But yeah, I guess their youth shone through. I mean, it was only a matter of time before they ended up behind chocolate bars, sentenced there by a criminal court fudge.
They just didn't think it through. They've got so much to learn from this. I mean, there's so many mistakes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a career criminal, and I don't know I don't know the do's and don'ts when it comes to a crime, but there are simple things. Firstly, you don't do that, and secondly, you don't drop it everywhere and expect not to be caught.
Lads, the car are coming. What do you want to do? Say nothing, right?
And to me, that's like a story I'd read my children. It's like, it's definitely like a kid's story that, you know, these three sort of, I suppose you'd nearly think they were kind of just so stupid that you'd feel sorry for them, guys had robbed a place and that they left their little trail of sweets all the way to where they were caught. It's sort of Jack and the Beanstalk-esque or something.
Those sweets we having for one day. Where'd you get them?
Shop.
Shop?
Bought them, yeah.
Yeah, bought them? What shop was that?
It's on the corner.
The shop just on the road was robbed in the last hour.
Wasn't us.
Three lads matching your description.
Wasn't us.
You had nothing to do with that, no?
No.
Lads, the game's up. I know. Seeing these sweets up and down the street from the shop, you've been making a mess of the place. I'm detaining you under the Public Order Act. Come on, lads, the game's up. Come on. I'm not messing. Come on, lads. Take the sweets with you.
Fucking hell.
Come on. Hey.
With several convictions already under his belt, you'd think our next guy would have learned evidence is everything. Yet still, he created his own.
Jason Glennon from Mulhuddard, he would be considered by Gardaí as a career criminal.
Jason Glennon is a classic example of a dumb criminal who will never learn.
I suppose Jason Glennon is a typical drug addict, in that he'd only been released from prison when he committed this crime. Like most drug addicts, he would need to constantly commit crime to feed his habit. He'd been an addict for about 20 years.
He's a seasoned pro now. He's been in and out of prison loads of times. And one night he robbed 5 houses in a row, giving a different excuse every time he was disturbed, saying he was visiting his dad in one place, saying he was checking the meter in the next place. He's caught, he's been in and out. He should know better than this. He's out of jail, 24 hours, breaks into a car, nicks a rucksack and a Nokia phone.
Well, just like the rest of us, these are young men. They get this brand new gadget which they've stolen. They're going to mess around with it. They're going to use it.
Why he decided to take a photograph of himself is just beyond me. But then again, you look at his record, over 80 convictions. He obviously was not particularly good at crime, and maybe it's time he should give it up.
Oh, obviously, you don't do that. If you're going to steal a phone, if you're going to steal a mobile phone, you don't just go click, click. It's a stolen phone, it's stolen goods. You don't want to be identified with it. Already your fingerprints are on it. I mean, he didn't think it through. He probably thought he'd never be caught. This is the problem. They don't think they're going to get caught. They never think they're going to get caught.
And this was kind of his first crime in a series of crimes he would later carry on throughout the day. He then carried out 3 more burglaries at houses in Blanchardstown.
Later on that night he breaks into a house, like it's the guy's pastime, it's what he does.
One of the houses he broke into, there was a man sleeping upstairs in his bedroom.
He's in the house, he's trying to grab as much stuff as he can, and stuff that can have a resale value, so he gets a PlayStation. Under pressure, they're under huge pressure, the adrenaline is pumping. You're not thinking straight. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to act up, you're going to do some dumbass things. We all do it, we all make mistakes under pressure. We all do stupid things, really dumb things under pressure.
The owner of the house woke up to find Glennon standing in his bedroom.
This man was quite startled to see him, and he immediately jumped out of bed and chased Glennon, who was obviously somewhat taken aback by the fact that this man had woken up and he disturbed him.
He freaked, ordered him out of the house. In the process of trying to escape, he dropped his rucksack and the phone.
While Glennon is fleeing, he's thinking about which part of his loot he can throw back to distract the guy.
So what does he do with the PlayStation? He throws it right at the poor lad at this guy's house and just throws the PlayStation and then legs it, and then he's chased, he's followed.
So when the guards examined the rucksack and the phone, they realised that Glennon had actually taken a photograph of himself on the phone, and it was, it was recorded. So that's actually how they caught him.
A lot of the local Gardaí would have known him as well, because he was kind of in continuous trouble. So this was how they tracked him down. They then went and called to him, and it was put to him, how could you be so stupid as to take a picture of yourself on a stolen phone.
It's just absolutely phenomenally stupid to do that. I mean, obviously he didn't realise that he was going to be relieved of the phone so quickly, I suppose.
Absolutely no idea what he was doing. I mean, why? Why would you do that? Is he going to post it on Facebook and show his mates what gaff he was robbing? There's a reason that this guy has been in and out of prison so many times.
I think the judge was told that he had a significant drug problem since the age of 14, and he was trying to get out of this cycle of crime, but he was still handed down a custodial sentence.
Unfortunately, people like Lennon, who has been an addict, I think it was said in court, he started using drugs when he was 14 and he became a heroin addict when he was 19. As long as that addiction is there, they're not going to be able to stop committing crimes because they need to feed it. They get up every morning and their whole day is centred around trying to make enough money to feed the habit. So it's sad, it's very sad, but until they can come off the drugs, really, they probably can't tackle the criminal activities.
With 158 convictions between them, Part 3's career criminals prove that some people will never learn.
There's CCTV everywhere.
You can't resist taking a whole roll of scratch cards.
It's just mind-boggling stupidity.
They get the money and they get out of the bookies.
They turned right and made their getaway.
Up to a nearby pub.
While raiding and robbing in public places, most criminals have the sense to cover their faces, but not the next guy.
In April 2011, Garrett Guinan decided he needed money, and what he was going to do was hold up a shop in Terenure in Dublin.
He goes into a newsagent in Terenure, leafy suburb of Dublin, lovely part of the capital.
He's in his early 20s or his mid-20s, and like 33 convictions is a lot to have at that age of your life, so percentage-wise you'd like to think that he's been caught most times.
He's breaking into a shop with a knife, your usual run-of-the-mill armed robbery.
Obviously the shopkeeper is terrified, barricades himself in the back room.
This shop assistant kind of quickly retreated into the back of the store.
Basically allows the guy to take whatever he wants, because at the end of the day, these crimes are scary, they're dangerous men, they're very, very dangerous, and you don't want to take a risk, so he just allowed him to take whatever he wants. So what does he take? What do you take when you can steal everything? What do you do? Well, I'm not going to tell you what I'd take, but what this guy took was, he took the scratch cards. He must love Marty Whelan and Winning Streak or something, I'm not sure. He took the whole roll of scratch cards. He took them all of them, and leaves.
Guinan managed to get a couple of €100 out of the cash register.
But while Garrett's in the shop, he can't resist taking a whole roll of scratch cards and running off with them.
The guards, please. Hello, I want to report a robbery.
The entire robbery was caught on CCTV.
Foolishly for him, he didn't cover his face at all. He didn't have a balaclava or anything on, so the shop assistant could clearly see his face in the security camera.
Gets a great description of him, you know what I mean? This is going to be enough probably for the Gardaí to find him.
Okay, tell me what happened. Right, well, I was coming out from the back store and this guy came in. He pulled a knife on me, so I ran back into the storeroom. I locked myself in there. I was able to see him on the CCTV in the back.
Not everyone is a winner, but then again, if you steal a whole roll of scratch cards, you've got a much better chance of winning. So he unscratches all of them, and yeah, he's a winner. He wins €107.
Rather stupidly for Mr. Guinan, he went into his local shop in Crumlin to cash this in.
What's the crack? Any chance you can cash that for me, love?
So he hands them in, collects his winnings, and he's up €107. But he forgets something that's so obvious now in Ireland today, is that there's CCTV everywhere. And he's caught on camera because all these scratch cards are registered, and they've been registered as stolen.
Cheers. You go up there, tell you. Cheers for that, love. I'll get you a drink later on, right? Thanks.
It obviously immediately came up in the system that these had been stolen previously. So this Gardaí were contacted, and the person in the shop was able to identify him.
So he's caught in the act, collecting his winnings, and didn't get a chance to go on winning streak and maybe get the car and do the big wheel, which he probably could have had a chance of doing. But he didn't pay for the tickets in the first place. It's just mind-boggling stupidity.
Most of these guys that you have on your Ireland's dumbest, you'll see that they just get caught constantly because they just don't have the intelligence to get away with the crime at all. Anybody that can steal scratch cards like that and go in looking to claim the winnings themselves, it's like as if he was nearly asking to get arrested.
Yeah, hello? I think nearly a child would know that the National Lottery have to have a record of where lottery tickets are going, or else everybody could just print them off the computer and give it a go.
I mean it's just, I just don't understand how these people think.
Is that Mr. Guinan?
It is, yeah.
Can I have a quick word with you?
Who's this?
It's Garda Walsh.
Garda Walsh? Yeah, but down to 1 second, okay?
He had not thought this through. I mean, it's just, but I mean, you do feel for him, you know, sitting there scratching scratch cards. I mean, if you see money, you're going to want to cash it in.
Well, I suppose if you have 33 convictions already, what's another one?
I don't think it was worth it, not for €107. Maybe if you want a trip to New York or something, but not for €107.
You can't just steal stuff and expect to get away with it, and then walk into another shop with the stolen goods and collect your winnings. Crazy. It's so stupid, just so silly.
Squad guard.
He's recognised on CCTV.
Oh, what?
Scratch cards.
Get your hands up.
The next set of criminals could have avoided their participation on this programme if only they'd planned an effective escape route.
One of Dublin City's most dumbest criminals must be Owen Comerford from Dublin Inner City, who back in 2009 decided that the best way to earn a few quid might be to rob a bookies with an accomplice of his.
They were obviously desperate for a bit of money, possibly just for drinking money, and they decided to carry out a raid on a bookies in the city centre.
This starts off as your normal heist in a bookies. Owen Comerford, 26-year-old, bursts in with an accomplice. The accomplice is waving the gun around, and the gun is a fake, but of course the people in the shop don't know this.
So when these guys ran in with their balaclavas on and waving this gun in the air, nobody's going to stop and ask, is that a real gun? Imitation guns look very, very real, and anybody that was in the shop that day, I'm convinced, would have an idea that that was probably a real gun. And anyway, you're not going to ask questions.
They didn't know what was going on. It must have been so daunting.
Two of them with latex gloves on. Looked like a well-planned operation, frightening everybody, staff and people who were in the shop placing bets.
Shut up!
Owen Comerford clears out 2 registers completely, and the 2 boys flee. It's pretty run-of-the-mill so far.
Their planning went well to a certain point, but then it just fell asunder.
They get the money and they get out of the bookies onto a main busy Dublin street.
In the whole of city centre, there's hundreds of CCTV cameras. There's probably a guard for every 10 metres of that area of Dublin.
And when they got out the door of the bookie shop, they turned right and made their getaway.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to report a robbery. Yeah, I'm at the bookies at Capel Street. 2 lads just held it up. One of them had a gun.
They successfully left the premises with €500 or thereabouts between them, and got out the door, you know, with the money in their pockets. Not bad.
And what you do when you run away from the scene of the crime, you just keep running. These lads, they didn't do that.
They don't head for a safe house or look for a hiding place. The 2 boys stroll nonchalantly up to a nearby pub.
Witnesses to the raid in the bookies actually could see exactly where they went, and no one can understand how bizarre it was that they, you know, that they thought that they could walk straight out of somewhere around the corner and that nobody would be aware it was the same 2 men involved in the crime. So immediately Gardaí arrived to the bookies, and witnesses were able to point them in the direction and say the 2 of them just went over there.
Did not think that. Did not think that maybe possibly the people in the bookies will see where the robbers went and follow them and maybe pass that information on to the guards.
Yeah, very sudden. It's a bit of a blur. There's 2 of them. This one guy, he's headed the door. with he'd a gun, and the other guy rushed in behind the counter and just grabbed a couple of the tills. One of the customers was saying she thinks they went to a pub down the road. So, I don't know, they might still be in there, maybe.
Leave it with me.
Cheers. Thank you.
All they could think of was, that was a hard day's work, I'm dying for a pint. So they run around the corner, just a couple of 100 feet, a couple of 100 metres, and decide, now we've done our work, now we have our just desserts. So they went in and basically ordered a couple of pints.
Well, to the people who were drinking in the pub, it seemed like a normal enough type of an event. They were sitting in there having a quiet drink in an afternoon, and one lad came in, goes down to a toilet downstairs. Another lad comes in and orders 2 pints of Budweiser at the bar, and they sit down. And it all seemed like a fairly normal kind of an event.
Why hide the money in the ladies' loo? Maybe there was going to be another accomplice, a woman who was going to come and collect the cash. Maybe they did think the crime through.
They sat down at a window and started to drink their proceeds.
I don't understand. If you just robbed a bookies, if you've just got a load of cash, why not order something bigger? Why not get a bottle of champagne? Why not have a big swishy meal?
Unfortunately for them, Gardaí arrived into the pub.
Hands where I can see them, lads!
Now, witnesses have told me that moments later, a guy came in, casually dressed, pulled a gun out and pointed in their faces. But it turned out to be a guard.
All right, you. Out first, slowly. Turn around. Up against the door. And you follow.
It must have been so frightening for the barman and for the other customers drinking away when, out of nowhere, a guy comes at the pub and points a gun.
They don't know if they're going to witness an execution or a robbery or what. So we've 2 scenes of mass confusion, one in the bookies and one in the pub up the road within the space of 2 or 3 minutes.
The 2 men appeared to be very calm about the whole situation. It didn't seem to bother them at all. They looked like 2 ordinary guys just sitting there having a quiet drink on an afternoon.
So the search Comerford's pockets, they found some of the money, and the rest was found downstairs in the toilet, one of the witnesses told me. It looks as if they had it planned fairly well, but most criminals, when they make a getaway, they get a good distance away from the scene of the crime. But these guys just went up the road and into the pub, plainly visible to people passing by.
One of the most dumbest attempts at a getaway in Irish criminal history.
Suppose they felt they'd done such a good job of getting out of the bookies that they deserved a pint, but if they had have maybe just gone further away, it might have been a more successful pint for them.
Most people would think that a guy might learn his lesson from something like that. OK, you've made a stupid mistake once. You might know better the next time. But Owen Comerford, at the age of 26, had 125 convictions under his belt the day he carried out that robbery. And investigators that I spoke to said, there's just no sense.
After the break, what would you do if drugs you were minding went missing?
Someone's at the robbing the gaff.
When he discovered that his home had been ransacked, he mistakenly thought that he'd actually been burgled.
He made a fatal mistake. He did the absolute wrong thing.
A lack of common sense was the main mistake made for first-time offender Robert Atkinson.
Robert Atkinson was a trainee plumber. He's from the Ballyfermot area. He was living in Inchicore.
In July 2007, Robert Atkinson made a fatal mistake. He did the absolute wrong thing.
This is my favourite tale now. Robert Atkinson, who Gardaí had suspicion that he was up to no good.
The guards had got a tip-off that he might have been holding drugs on the premises, so they raided it.
Robert! Gardaí!
Well.
Oh, yeah.
Inside they found €250,000 worth of drugs. They found nearly 1.5 kilos of cocaine. They found nearly 15 kilos of cannabis. They found weighing scales. They found the records. They had their case pretty much sewn up there and then.
Jesus.
Atkinson, completely unaware that Gardaí had visited his home and seized his drugs, came home from, I believe, a day at college. When he discovered that his home had been ransacked, he mistakenly thought that he'd actually been burgled.
Fuck. Someone had to rob the fucking house. Jeez. Oh man, what the fuck? I'm a dead man. Someone's at the robbing the gaff.
What do you do when your house is burgled? You call the guards and you say, my house has been burgled. But you don't call the guards if you have a shed load of money and $250,000 worth of drugs in your house. You just don't do that.
This just shows, I suppose, how immature he was, and he isn't a criminal. He'd never been involved in crime previously, so it just kind of showed his naivety.
So he strolls into the Garda station, makes a statement declaring the items he's missed. I would love to have read that statement.
You say, my house has been burgled, and you tell the guards, well, what's missing? Well, there was a weighing scales, there was this log about all the drugs I sold, there was a shed load of cash, also there's a lot of drugs. How much? Around $250,000 street value. I mean, what do you say? What do you say is missing?
I'm missing a suspicious bag of white powder, I'm missing some vacuum-packed green herb, a weighing scales, there's a list of dodgy names. Actually, can I withdraw my statement?
When the drugs officers realised that he was down to complain about that, they obviously went into him.
Bleeding, hurry up.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert Atkinson, yes? Yeah, that's me. How can we help you? Oh yeah, I want to report a burglary. My gas said they're getting robbed. Alright. Go ahead, yeah.
I understand he kept arguing with the guards and he wouldn't admit his guilt for quite a long time. And it must have dawned on him straight away. This was probably the most stupidest thing I have ever done.
By making himself available to the police, he guarantees that he is home. Because the guards simply say, well, that was us, and if your stuff is missing, that must be your drugs too.
He finally admitted to what he was doing.
Right, they're not mine. I'm just looking at them for someone. Just asked to do a favour and that's all. They're not mine.
Robert, there's €250,000 worth of cocaine in your house.
Not to mention the huge amounts of hash that we found there as well. It's not mine, lads. Someone asked me to mine them, like. They're not mine. I don't own them. I'm looking at them for someone, like.
Robert, save that for the judge.
He was charged in relation to the drugs, and he was very cooperative with Gardaí. He said that he'd been holding the drugs for a serious enough drug dealer, and he was being paid €2,000 to mine these drugs.
Then he subsequently admitted that he was actually selling a little bit of drugs, but you'd kind of nearly have to believe him, because it was just so incredibly stupid to go and report a burglary that he actually must have thought his house was burgled. Like, what were the guards going to do if there had been a robbery and they did discover that there had been a robbery on his premises? Were they going to give him back the drugs, or were they going to put them into lost property for him to claim? Or it's just beggars belief, really.
I bet he thought, Ian Howe, I've just taken your title of Ireland's dumbest criminal.
It ended well for him. I think, unlike so many others, the judge later accepted at his trial that, you know, he had really tried to turn his life around and he had just got himself involved in something he really shouldn't have. Very unusually, he was actually given a 7-year suspended sentence. He was really extremely lucky not to, to avoid a jail sentence. He didn't seem to be a career criminal. He didn't seem to know what he was doing either, which was why he got caught.
Last but not least, this story tells the tale of how one criminal created his own comedy of errors.
So this particular crime was a comedy of errors from the very start.
This robbery was just farcical from start to finish. The perpetrator and his girlfriend pulled up outside a supermarket outside Dublin.
And he initially just went in with the intent to shoplift, but for some reason, once he was inside the shop, obviously something came over him and he decided that, he was going to try and rob the shop.
picks up a pack of mints, and then he allows people ahead of him and says, you go to the front of the queue, it's okay, I'll wait back. He must have had a little bit of nervousness in the shop. They must have seen that in him, seen a little weakness. Let's be honest about it. We do come across strange people in shops all the time.
I mean, very suspiciously kept standing back and letting other customers go before him.
This guy must have been like the least intimidating criminal of all time, because like everybody he encountered wasn't afraid and seemed to be ready to take him on.
Eventually he gets to the top of the queue. I don't think he was even planning on paying for the mints, he was just going to shoplift them. But then he decides to hold the place up.
Hey, stop what you're doing! When the shopkeeper opened the till, he leaned over and grabbed 4 €50 notes.
Gets 3 €50 notes, the fourth one gets torn, he doesn't even make it to the 200.
From that point onwards, everything went disastrously wrong.
He needs to get out of there fast to his waiting getaway driver.
He eventually ran outside.
His girlfriend is sitting there probably in a relatively relaxed state. He hadn't informed her, I'm going to go in here and do a little bit of a robbery.
And get this, the getaway driver doesn't even know she's a getaway driver.
Go! Drive the car, go! Just go! After holding up the shop, go!
She tried to get the car in gear to try and get them out of the sticky situation they were in.
As far as we can make out, she wasn't a particularly skilled driver. She could only manage to get the car into reverse, so they had to make the escape in the car in reverse. The people inside the shop were able to get the reg, and it was just a disaster really from start to finish. And if I was just sitting in a car outside a shop myself waiting for someone to come out, and they came out and told me to put my foot to the floor, I could quite easily go into reverse myself. So we have to give her that. She didn't know what was going on.
How can you have a getaway car in reverse? It's like, come on, get in reverse.
She was significantly younger than him, and they were newly in a relationship, so maybe she was just blinded by love.
I suppose love makes us do the stupidest things. I mean, this guy was a known criminal, so she knew what she was getting into when she first got with him. But on this day, she probably just thought she was sitting there enjoying a nice drive, and all of a sudden she's an accomplice to a crime without even knowing it.
So after a few minutes, they made a very kind of bungled exit and drove a couple of miles away.
The guards catch up with them in a field.
When the guards eventually caught up with them, the behaviour continued really, because they said they were looking for a place to go fishing, and they were nowhere near water.
How are you, lads? What are you doing around here? I should looking for a spot to go fishing.
This is a field just outside Dublin, not a drop of water in sight.
Fishing? Yeah. There's nowhere I'd be fishing around here.
Is that the 50 from the shop?
What? Hold on a sec. What's going on here now?
So to complete the illusion, his girlfriend stands up, €50 falls out of her pocket, and that pretty much sums the case up for the Gardaí there and then.
Essentially, they were caught red-handed at this point.
It was like Dumb and Dumber, really.
She escaped a custodial sentence, but he was handed down a custodial sentence himself.
Stop me! You're hurting my arm!
Come on.
So there we have it. Criminals across the country, consider yourselves warned. The highs are usually followed by lows. Getaway driver disasters do happen, and accidentally turning yourself in, well, that's not a good idea either.